Hello, and welcome to another playoff edition of the Creamsicle Chronicle podcast. My name is JT Olson, broadcasting live from the snowy shores of Lake Michigan. And I'm going to tell you, it feels a lot better after a playoff win. We've had sub-zero temperatures this week. It's been a whopping, 2 degrees before wind chill. And, it's just been cozy for me. Sitting back, thinking about this big playoff win against the Eagles, just an absolute domination of a team that was to come in to the Bucs house and beat them. A team that won 11 games, blew them out of the water. Felt good. It really did. Felt good. A lot of people picked this to go the other way. They got caught up in their preconceived notions of the Bucs. They went back to their, preseason predictions. Oh, Bucs aren't any good. They got Baker Mayfield as their quarterback. They're going to lose to the Eagles. Nah. No, and it feels good to prove that narrative wrong again. They've done it all year. All year. We've tried to tell them Bucs are a good team. Bucs are going to go through growing pains this year, but this is a good roster. And everyone said, no, Philly's too talented. Philly's too good. Only the people who really know what football is were picking the Bucs. Because if I'm being honest about it, that Eagles team that team was mentally broken. They did not want to be there. They have people deleting Eagles off their social media. They got players coming in and saying that they've just been coasting for 2 months. They were not mentally ready to play. And the Bucs were. And, that's a tip of the cap to Todd Bowles. Todd Bowles, through the whole season, even when the team was 4-7, he never for a second lost his locker room. He always had him dialed in. He had him in playoff mode 2 months ago. So the Bucs didn't have to get ready because they stayed ready. It's nice not to be on the other side of that, because the Bucs for a long time have been on the other side of that. They've been the one getting in their own way. Bucs beating the Bucs for years and years and years. What was it, 17 years between playoff appearances? It's a long time. So now, this is our 4th playoff in a row. 3 out of 4, we've won at least one game. Now we got a chance to build on that. Now, it's not going to be as easy. This Lions team is better than the Eagles. That Eagles team had no interest in tackling. They're soft. The Eagles team were soft. Detroit's not going to be soft. But it's not just the Eagles were soft. The Bucs played, I'll say they played reasonably well because they did leave a lot of meat on the bones. A lot of drop passes, a lot of missed opportunities. This could have easily been a 40-point victory, which is wild to say about a playoff game. But there were more than one occasion where the Bucs just didn't execute. Cade Otton had a really nice game, but he dropped a touchdown pass. It was right in his hands in the end zone. And I know some people say he got hit before the ball got there as pass interference. I don't care. You're in the end zone. The ball hits you in the hands. You got to pull it in. Mike Evans had a bomb. Baker Mayfield dropped it right in the bucket, at the 5-yard line. And it just went right through his hands. Missed opportunities. And, luckily the Bucs were able to get away with it because they were a far better team in this game. I don't know if they were a far more talented team because that Eagles team was talented, but they were a way better team. They were mentally focused. They were dialed in. They had intensity. The Eagles didn't. The Eagles got pushed around physically because they didn't want it. They didn't want it mentally. It was a nice game to see. That's what the Bucs had to do in this game. That was the expectation. Anything less would have been a disappointment. I know some people nationally are saying, hey, Bucs made it to the playoffs. We all thought they would stink. They're having a really nice season. Todd Bowles, he took them from what could have been a 3-win team to a 9-win team. Maybe he's a coach of the year. I don't see it that way. That's not how I see this team. This team was supposed to win 10 games or so. Maybe 11, maybe 9, somewhere in that ballpark. They were supposed to win the division. That's what the talent on this roster dictates. The Buccaneers are more talented than the Panthers. They're more talented than the Falcons. More talented than the Saints. So if you were to lose to those in the division, that would have been a disappointing year. So winning the division, that was the bare minimum expectation. And I said it from the beginning of the year. You win the division, and then we'll talk about matchups when you get there. Well, we got there. And looking at this Eagle team coming in, I'd said it going in. They've lost 5 out of 6. The Bucs have won 5 out of 6. The Eagles, it's hard to turn on the intensity when you don't have it. You can't just flip the switch. And that's what they were trying to do. So it was my expectation that the Bucs went in and won this game. I didn't know that they would because Todd Bowles, Dave Canales, they've given me reason to doubt them throughout the year. But they did exactly what I would have expected them to do in terms of what they should do. They came in and they brought it to this Eagles team. They brought it to them physically. They brought it to them in terms of their mental toughness. And frankly, both Todd Bowles and Dave Canales, they put on a masterclass in this game. This was a brilliantly called game from both of them. Now, both were way in their bag of tricks. Todd Bowles was dialing it up. He had defensive tackles dropping into coverage. He was a deep ball play away from holding this Eagles team to basically no points. They don't hit that deep shot to Devonta Smith. This is a 32-3 game. That's ifs and buts. They hit the shot. Didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. But man, this was a thumping. It wasn't even as close as it was on the scoreboard. And Dave Canales, I thought this was probably one of his, if not his best, close to his best called game of the year. Just the way they used motion and they attacked the weaknesses of the Eagles. Getting Cade Otton involved like they did, that is attacking a defense. Eagles aren't strong at linebacker. Eagles had injury at safety. Okay, you know who those guys typically cover? Tight ends, running backs. Let's try and get those guys involved. Cade Otton had a big day because the Eagles couldn't match up with them, and Dave Canales knew that. So they went to Cade early and often, and it was effective. Not just that, they motioned him a lot. They gave Baker Mayfield a cheat sheet. You see a guy go into motion, that shows you what the defense does. They have a guy running with them, running back. They tell you what kind of coverage they're running, give you some clues. I thought the sequencing was good in this game, if not very good. I thought they kept it balanced. I thought they approached it in many different ways to run the ball. And I think the epitome of that was that 4th down call. Bucs were going for it on a 4th down. They motioned out Devin Tompkins. They motioned him back in real fast. It looks like it was going to be, a jet sweep to him. And then they fake it to him. They pitch it the other way to Rachaad White. Pick up a 1st down. It was misdirection. It wasn't just trying to ram into a brick wall like they did in week 4. That was frustrating to watch then. Just trying to jam it up the gut. Now, that'll work sometimes, but it wasn't ever going to work against this Eagles team. And Canales learned from his mistakes. He took what he learned in that game and he applied it to this game, and the Bucs were better for it. So overall, people want to discredit this Eagles team for what they were down the stretch, and that's fine. I agree with that. They're right to do that. This team was mentally broken. I think any team in the playoffs could have beat this Eagles team. But I don't think any team in the playoffs was going to thump them like this. This was as much the Eagles being bad as the Bucs being good. and the Bucs could have been a lot better even. They were a little sloppy early on. So it was a good tune-up game going into the second round game. And, there are people saying whatever happens now, it's house money. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think this Bucs team matches up really well with this Lions team. I think this is going to be a really even matchup. But I think no matter what happens, I'm happy with the outcome of this season. It'll be disappointing if we don't beat the Lions. That's a beatable team. That's a winnable game for the Bucs. I know they're almost a touchdown underdog, but I see these two teams as a pick 'em. I think these are two even teams. But even if things don't go our way on Sunday, this has been a good year. They met expectation. They won the division. That's 3 division titles in a row. Back-to-back NFC South champions. That doesn't happen all the time. Don't take that for granted. I don't care how good the division is, how bad the division is. Three-peating as a champion is three-peating as a champion. That's 3 automatic bids to the playoffs. And the one year you didn't win the South, that's the year you won the Super Bowl. So it's been championship for 4 years in a row, whether it's Super Bowl or NFC South. That was the expectation. They met it. Good job. Good job, Todd Bowles. Then they got into a playoff game, and they beat a team I thought they should have beat. Again, that's what it's about. You got to get there. You got to have a seat at the table. There's an old saying in poker. All you need is a chip and a chair, and you got a chance to win. That's what the Bucs had. They had a seat at the table. They were ready to make some noise. And so far, so good. Now you got a tough matchup against a good Lions team. We'll see what happens. We'll talk a little bit more about that in depth later. But before I do that, I do want to take just a minute to give Todd Bowles his flowers. Not only was this game a really good game for him, but it was just the cherry on top. He really just stamped himself as your Buccaneers coach moving forward. There was question about his job. It was 2 weeks ago. They were 8-8, playoff life on the line against the Panthers. And I really believe if they lost to the Panthers and missed the playoffs, Todd Bowles would have been fired. Underachieved, you missed the playoffs, you lose the division, no reason for it. Got to be out. Great coaches don't underachieve. But in just 2 weeks' time, he salvaged it. And he has a chance to even further do that this week against the Lions. So not only do I think Todd Bowles will be back as your coach next year, and he deserves to be, but I think if you win on Sunday, he's going to be back for a couple of years. Because you're in the NFC Championship game, Todd Bowles is proving to everyone that he can be the man to lead this team to the promised land. Because he's been working with some disadvantages this year. $80 million in dead cap. It's not helping him. I don't think it hurt him too terribly much because I think he still has one of the better rosters in the NFC. But you add a little more, free agent sizzle to this thing. It takes you from the NFC Championship game to the Super Bowl. Maybe winning a Super Bowl. You add, a starting caliber center. You go out, you get a big time, goal line threat running back. You're improving your offensive line. You're improving your running game. You're improving your red zone efficiency. That's points on the board. Your defense is already really good. Top 10 in points allowed. Now that's Todd Bowles. That's why he wants to do it. Defense, don't let them score. Offense, be good enough. We want to run the ball. We can't do it yet, but maybe next year we will. Just got to add a couple more pieces. Now, if you get to the NFC Championship game, you really are just a couple of pieces away. Heaven forbid you win the NFC Championship game. How close are you then? With $80 million dead cap coming off the books, you feel like you're real close. And Todd Bowles is the one who takes you there. So I have been critical of Todd Bowles, and I feel justified in the times I've been critical of him. I've been critical of Dave Canales, and I feel justified in the times I've been critical of his play sequencing. But I think they're leaving no doubt right now that it's their team moving forward until proven otherwise. They have earned the benefit of the doubt. So I think no matter what happens on Sunday, Todd Bowles is back, and he should be. And I think Bucs fans, be ready for it. This is your guy. Defensive mastermind, Todd Bowles. Going to blitz a ton. It's going to have that, mild-mannered personality on the sidelines. Going to give you very little in a press conference. Talk about practice. Be used to it. Be ready for it. It's coming back. And that's okay. All right, so I don't want to dwell too much on last week. It was great. I enjoyed it. I think we all enjoyed that whooping, especially against a fan base like Philadelphia. No one's going to feel bad for them. But now it's on to bigger and better things. That's a game you were supposed to win. That's a game I expected the Bucs to win. I don't think you can expect anything against the Lions. This is going to be a dogfight. This is two good teams, two equally matched teams going toe-to-toe. You can't expect to win a game like that. I mean, sure, you can, and it's fair to say, I'm confident that we can win this game. I think that's more than fair to say. But if your expectation is, hey, we're going to come in and we're going to roll this team and we're going to move on, that's not realistic. Lions are too good. This is, going to be an absolute chess match. Great offense for Detroit versus great defense for Tampa. Questionable defense for Detroit versus inconsistent offense for Tampa. And it's really just going to be about who comes in and makes plays. Who's going to play their game better. Neither team's going to out-talent each other. It's not possible. They're too equally matched. Even the matchups, they're balanced. Detroit got a good offensive line, a great offensive line. Maybe the best in football. They want to come in, they want to pound the rock. They're all about running the ball. And then they're just going to nickel and dime you down the field. 8 yards to Amon-Ra St. Brown here. 5 yards to Jahmyr Gibbs there. Maybe pop one deep to Jameson Williams for 35 yards. But it's all set up on running the ball. They want to grind you down. Which is fine, because the Bucs are set up to stop that. This front seven of the Bucs is one of the best in football. Big V in the middle. There's no better nose tackle in the game. Going against an all-pro caliber center. That's going to be a great matchup. And whatever guard's getting help on that. Because even an all-pro, you can't just go one-on-one with Vita Vea. It's not going to go well for them. So that's going to be fun. Kalijah Kancey, he got his first real NFL action week 6 against Detroit when these two teams played. That was, he didn't have hardly any training camp, no preseason, missed the first month of the NFL season, and they just threw him in against the best offensive line in football. And he looked decent. He had really good moments. There was one play, he put Penei Sewell in a blender, just tossed him aside, made a play. And Penei Sewell, I'll tell you what, if Tristan Wirfs isn't the best offensive tackle in football, Penei Sewell's the short list on who could be there too. It's Sewell, it's Wirfs, and it's Trent Williams. And those are the top three, and I don't think there's any disputing that. So for Kancey to come in his first taste of NFL action and to win against a guy like that, I think that's really encouraging for what we can expect to see this week. Didn't see a ton of Yaya Diaby the first time around. Yaya Diaby is a physical freak. 6'4", 270 pounds. You don't think that guy's going to play the run well? You don't think he's going to have a physical element to his game in this one? This is strength on strength. And now I haven't even mentioned Levante David. Hall of Fame caliber linebacker, flying around, making plays in the backfield. The Bucs have been set up to stop a running game like that for years. Think about Dan Campbell, head coach of the Lions, where he comes from. He used to be an assistant with the Saints. He's modeled his team after those Saints teams. You got a thumper running back, someone who's going to get those tough yards, and you got a quick, shifty running back. That's their Alvin Kamara. That's Jahmyr Gibbs. They spent a 12th overall pick in the draft on him. We've seen it. We've seen it a long time. That same mold. Bucs are pretty decent at stopping that. Levante David has always matched up well against Alvin Kamara. They got the speed. They got the tackling. This is strength on strength. This team is going to try and impose their will. And the Bucs are going to try and impose their will. It's just about execution at that point. Just little things. Taking a good angle to a ball security. It's going to be strength on strength, and that's all you could hope for. I think one thing that I think is a really big advantage for the Bucs is their wide receivers in this game. And Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, they're an advantage in every game. It's one of the best duos in the NFL. But the Lions' cornerback situation is not good. They do not have the horses to run with Mike Evans or Chris Godwin. Cam Sutton's a really solid player. I think in an ideal situation, he's a good number 2. He was number 1 in Pittsburgh for a while. He's number 1 in Detroit. But this secondary is very leaky. They allow big plays. And it's because their corner play isn't that good. I challenge you. Can you name who the other starting cornerback is for the Lions? I bet you can't. He's a practice squad guy. A guy who was not on NFL radars for a lot of teams. And he's actually come in and done an admirable job. But, do you want a guy like that going up against Chris Godwin? Do you want a guy like that going up against Mike Evans? Heck, even Trey Palmer. 4.3 speed. The Lions are going to have to dedicate a lot of resources over the top to try and limit these Bucs wide receivers. Let's assume they're putting 2 on Mike Evans. Cam Sutton, their best corner, and whatever safety they want to float over there, because they do have good safeties. Okay. That is going to leave Chris Godwin on an island. They're going to devote a second safety to help double cover Chris Godwin. That's 4 defenders to 2 offenders. That's promising for the Bucs. So I really don't think there's a good way for Detroit to match up with what the Bucs have on the outside. So then it just comes to, can Baker get them the ball? I absolutely think he can. Lions pass rush, it's not very good. It isn't. There's just no 2 ways about it. Aiden Hutchinson, he's their star. I think he had 9.5 sacks this year. He went cold for a long time. But he's always been a guy who's gotten pressure. He's one of the pressure leaders in the NFL this year, Pro Bowler. When these 2 teams played in Week 6, Luke Gedeke shut him down. Absolutely put the clamps on him. And not only that, but Luke Gedeke called his shot before the game. Leading up to that game, he said, Aiden Hutchinson, he's really not that hard to prepare for. We've played other edge rushers that I think were more challenging. And that made me nervous. Aiden Hutchinson's a good player. I didn't necessarily want Luke Gedeke going in saying that when he's about to go up against someone like that. He was talking the talk in his 5th NFL start. This guy was, a lot of people wanted to write him off, wash him out of the league last year. This year, he had a really promising start, and he was Week 5 calling out Aiden Hutchinson. But you know what? He went on the field, and he walked the walk. He put the clamps on Aiden Hutchinson. Aiden Hutchinson was a non-factor in that first game. And it's because Luke Gedeke shut him down. I mean, that's the matchup they wanted to attack, and it made sense. You don't want Aiden Hutchinson going against Tristan Wirfs. You're burning your best pass rusher on a brick wall. You know you're not getting pressure there. So heck yeah, you want to take him to the other side. Try and work against that unproven offensive tackle. That offensive tackle in his 5th start of the season, his 5th start at right tackle, dominated Aiden Hutchinson. And now here we are. 2 or 3 months later, that much more experience. There's every reason to think that they're going to shut him down again. I'm honestly not worried about Aiden Hutchinson in this game because of that. Now they're going to have to try and move him inside, try and get creative with him to generate pressure. And maybe they can do that. We know the interior of the Bucs offensive line, that's their weak point. All love to Aaron Stinney, Robert Hainsey. They're doing their thing. They're grinding. But the hard, cold truth of it is that they're replacement level players. You're looking at guards in the draft. You're looking at a center in the draft. They're not the future of this team because they can be exploited. Lions defensive tackle, Slim McNeil. His name is Aleem, but I always call him Slim. That goes back to when I was scouting him for the draft. Autocorrect always changed his name to Slim, so I still call him Slim. But he's a good player. He's their best interior player. Now, he's a good run defender. He came out as a nose tackle. He shed some weight, improved his pass rush ability. He's a really solid player for the Lions. And him lining up against Aaron Stinney could be a mismatch. Could be the one place where the Lions have an advantage in this defensive line. Lions are also getting back James Houston, who was a surprise pass rusher for them last year. Was second amongst rookies in sacks. He's a speed guy. He's got a bunch of pass rush moves that he likes to use. So the Lions are really going to try and exploit whatever they can. They're going to try and throw whatever they can at the Lions. They've been more blitz happy down the second half of the season, and they've been increasing the pressure they get. But against these offensive tackles, I'm not that worried about it. James Houston's a good player, but I don't think he's going to beat Luke Gedeke. I don't think he's going to beat Tristan Wirfs. Aiden Hutchinson can't. Why would I think James Houston can? So I think that's going to open up some things on the outside. Baker can leak out, extend plays. He wants to pull it down, get some yards with his feet. But more than anything, he's just going to have time to throw the ball. I really believe that. He might get flushed a couple of times in this game. But Baker, he's so good at extending plays. You get flushed out of the pocket, you drift to the right. Oh, look, there's Trey Palmer coming over the middle. Oh, look, he's got open field in front of him. Big play. That's the downside of the blitz. They're taking players from somewhere out of coverage. And that's what the Lions are going to have to do to get pressure in this game. So I think that's where the Bucs are really going to have the advantage. Everywhere else, I think it's all really, really evenly matched. Bucs D-line versus Lions offensive line. That's a really good matchup. That's kind of a stalemate. That's a push. Bucs secondary versus Lions pass catchers. I think that's mostly across the board. That's kind of a push too. Jamison Williams is a burner. He's big. He's physical. But you know what? So is Jamel Dean. Jamel Dean, 4.3 speed. Antoine Winfield, 4.3 speed. Todd Bowles is putting Zion McCollum at safety the other day. Just out of nowhere. Trying him out in the playoffs. Hey, you're going to play some safety. And I know they've been working up to that, but that caught me off guard. But if they do it again, it's going to play into their favor because he's got 4.3 speed. They're all guys who can run with a guy like Jamison Williams. The one guy who I know is going to get his in this game, and I don't think the Bucs have any real answer for it, that's Amon-Ra St. Brown. Does a lot of his work out of the slot. He's a good route runner. He's very physical. He reminds me a lot of Larry Fitzgerald. Great hands. Never drops passes. And him working against some Zion McCollum, some Christian Izzian, Lavonte David, whatever linebackers, right there. That's a big mismatch for Detroit. That's an advantage for them. But if you can just keep him in front of you, he's not a burner. You let them try and dink and dunk down the field with a guy like that. You got 7 yards. Oh, we're going to try and run it. Oh, you got 1 yard. We're going to try and throw it again. There's third down, 3 and out. You let him get 10 catches for 90 yards. That's a win. And again, he's one of the best in the NFL. All pro, first team, over 1,500 receiving yards. He's an absolute stud. But he's not super explosive. Well, he'll fight for yards after catch. He's tough. He's got some quickness to him. You got to swarm to the ball. Got to tackle him. We saw what happens when you don't the last time these teams played. He caught it over the middle. Tried to bounce it outside. He had a running back come lay a huge block on Carlton Davis and was able to pick up a lot of yards after the catch, run for a touchdown. That's what you can't have happen. Got to get to the ball. Got to tackle him right away. If you do that, go ahead. Let him catch 12 passes for 120 yards. Because you have the ability to take the other things away. You can take this running game away to a degree. You can limit that. You can take Jamison Williams away. You can limit that. Sam Laporta, second-team All-Pro tight end as a rookie. He's hurt. He's playing hurt. He had what looked like a really ugly knee injury the last week of the season. But he was surprisingly able to play through it last week. And he wasn't particularly effective. He was out there. He caught a touchdown, but it was well under his season expectations. He's been playing better than that all year. He's questionable for this game. He's not 100%. So you put a guy like Lavonte David on him. Lavonte David really took him out of the game last time they played. That's a guy you can limit in his current state. The only guy who really scares me other than Amon-Ra is Craig Reynolds. Or not Craig Reynolds, Josh Reynolds. He's their number 2 receiver. He's quicker than fast. He's tough. He extends a lot of drives. He catches a lot of first down passes. Bucs' big corners do struggle with quickness, so he's a little bit of a concern for me. I'll be honest about it. But he's not a guy who's going to kill you by himself. If you just limit him, say, 50 yards, 60 yards, Amon-Ra gets 120. That's still under 200 yards passing. You get a couple of contributors here and there. Sam Laporta gets 25. Jahmyr Gibbs gets 20. 230 yards passing. That's not going to kill you. I think you can outshoot the Lions if they're only getting 230 passing yards. So really, it's just about limiting them, tackling them when they get the ball. Don't let the other guys beat you. Make Amon-Ra go for 300 yards. He's not Julio Jones. I don't think he can do that. He can hurt you, but I don't think he'll kill you by himself. Not the way a guy like Mike Evans can. We think back to that Panthers game last year. 200-some yards, 3 touchdowns. I don't think Amon-Ra St. Brown has that in his bag. So you just let him catch the ball. You tackle him right away. You don't let him pick up a lot of yards after catch. And I think just limiting the other guys, don't let the other guys kill you, you're in real good shape there. It's hard to see either team running away with this one. I think both teams have a very legitimate chance to win. Lions are at home, and honestly, I think this might be the best home field advantage in the NFL. Last week, they won their first playoff game in 30 years. Fans here are starved. I live in Michigan. I know what it's like. I hear it every day. Lions fans have been starved for a winner my entire life. And now they're finally seeing one. They do not take that for granted. That field is going to be loud. I'm talking like beastquake loud. So am I worried about that? I'm absolutely worried about that. Even a Bucs team that goes to the Superdome that gets pretty loud. A Bucs team that has a winning record on the road, a better record on the road than they do at home. I think Ford Field is going to be a different animal. How do they handle that? That could be one of those little things that makes a big difference in this game. So if you're talking advantages, that's one of the few I see. Bucs wide receivers against the Lions secondary, home field advantage for Detroit. Other than that, I think everything else is pretty well balanced. Baker Mayfield, I think sometimes a little careless with the ball, can be a little reckless with it. So can Jared Goff. You get pressure on Jared Goff, he's turnover prone. I think the Bucs can get some pressure. Todd Bowles, just like last week, he's got a deep bag of tricks. He can simulate pressure. He can do delayed pressure. He's brilliant. He knows exactly when to dial it up. So I think getting some pressure on Jared Goff, he can give you the ball. He'll give it away. And I'd say the same with Baker sometimes. You need to get pressure on him sometimes. Just try and give it away. So I think, again, this quarterback matchup, I think these are two similar tier quarterbacks. I don't think there's a lot that separates them. Different style of players. But if you say, hey, who's the better quarterback there? I kind of go back and forth on it. Depends on what you're trying to do. Jared Goff, if everything's perfect around him, he can be really good. Baker Mayfield, he doesn't need everything perfect around him. Sometimes he can elevate talent. It's harder to do. I want to move into bold predictions. I like to give at least 2 a week. And the first one I want to go, it's going to go back to that big advantage I said, Bucs wide receivers. I'm going to call both Mike Evans and Chris Godwin have over 100 receiving yards in this game. Again, you want to attack the Lions on the outside. You want to attack their corners. You got 2 star outside wide receivers. Use them. If Dave Canales is smart, he will use both of those guys and Trey Palmer. I think any one of those guys can clear 100. And I think at least 2 of the 3 will. So you can call that my bold take. 2 out of those 3 are going to clear 100 receiving yards. Evans, Godwin, and Palmer. My other bold prediction. I think you're going to see a defensive score in this game. I don't know if it's going to be a forced fumble or it's going to be an interception, but it might be one of those things where pressure gets to Goff, he drops the ball, pick it up and run it back. Might be one of those things where Sam Laporta, he's not running at full speed because he can't. Timing's a little bit off. Levante David can step in front, take it to the house. Antoine Winfield can jump a route. Jared Goff doesn't have a great arm. If he tries to air it deep to Jamison Williams, maybe that comes up a little short. Pick it off, take it the other way. So I know that one is a bold prediction. You do not see a lot of defensive scores, but I see a pathway to it. I feel confident in this game. I really do. Again, I think these are 2 equal teams. I don't think either one is, really in a position where they're favorable in this game. But I feel confident. I do. I would be disappointed if the Bucs lost. It wouldn't be, it was house money. I'm happy just to be here. No, you are in a game that can take you to the NFC Championship, a game that you can win, a game where you are an equal team to your opponent. Go out, get it done. It would be really disappointing if they don't. They might be the better team. Again, I can't really differentiate. I think they're so even. But if you said, hey, I think the Bucs are better than the Lions, I can't argue it. If Lions said, hey, I think the Lions are better than the Bucs, well, I can't really argue that either. You know, they're in so many ways images of each other. They're yin and yang. Offense versus defense. So I think it's a great opportunity. Great opportunity versus a great team. Punch your ticket. Championship Sunday. And once you get there, you play either the 49ers or the Packers. One team I think you'd be favored against. The other team I don't think you would be. But you know what? 60-minute football game, anything can happen. Upsets can happen. This I wouldn't view as an upset. This is two equal teams. I know the Bucs are underdogs in this game by nearly a touchdown. I don't see it like that. I'm taking the Bucs to cover, and I'm taking Bucs money line in this game. I think they're going to win. I think they're going to go into Ford Field, and it's going to be just an absolute slugfest. Two teams that are tough, two teams that are gritty, two teams that want to play the same style, have the same attitude on the field. And I think the Bucs, with their experience, their ability to stop the run, their ability to make splash plays with their receivers, I think they're going to edge the Lions out. Final score prediction, I'm going to say Buccaneers 27, Detroit Lions 22. 22 is a weird number, but when you've got a coach like Dan Campbell in Detroit, he likes to be aggressive. He likes to go for it on fourth down. He likes to go for 2-point conversions. I think they're going to miss on a couple of those attempts. So failed 2-point conversion, you turn it over on a fourth down once or twice. I think that's a huge swing in the game. I think Bucs are going to get it done. We saw it. We saw it versus Philly. Oh, 4th and goal on the 1. 2-point conversion. Brotherly shove. Here it comes. Bucs shut it down. Eagles took points off the board. Tried to go for it on 4th down. Defense stood tall. You know, Bucs are good. Defense is too good to be messing around with things like that. Can't get cute. Dan Campbell, he likes to try and do that cute stuff. And it works for him a lot of times. He steals possessions away. He steals points from the other team. But it's a double-edged sword. I think it's going to cut him. I think it's going to hurt the Lions. I think it's going to help the Bucs. So that's where I'm at. Bucs, hard-fought game. Go in, they get it done. If they don't, it'll be disappointing. I think it'll still be a successful season. You accomplished all your goals. Todd Bowles, come on back next year. We'll try and run it again. But I think they can do it, and I think they will do it. Hopefully next week, we're talking NFC Championship game. And we're talking about how the Bucs can win it. We'll see what happens Saturday when the Packers and the 49ers play. I think the 49ers are going to win that game, so I think we're going to be going to San Francisco. We got to get there first. Don't want to get ahead of it. You know, this is a tough task ahead. So with that, I'm going to wrap this up. Going about 45 minutes here. You can find all of my written work on bucksreport.com. We appreciate them for having our podcast on those sites. You know, we have recently moved here to Bucs Report from our previous site, so we're happy to be on board. Speaking for myself and my co-host, Garrett Ballard. Garrett's got some crazy work hours going right now, so he hasn't been able to join. But we're hopefully going to be talking about Championship Sunday next week. You know, in the future, we're going to be talking about the draft. Got a lot of content coming in the future. Win, lose, or draw. So stay tuned. Be on the lookout for that. You can find me on Twitter at IcewaterOlson. You can follow our podcast at The Creamsicle Crew. So until next time, go Bucs. Fire the cannons. Get this win. Championship Sunday, here we come. Let's go.